let's talk about the next subject, which you've just about touched on, and that's the occupancy of those rooms. So, give us a bit of an insight into occupancy, which is, from my thinking, massive.
It is massive. A few things to consider here is whether your property is a seasonal property or whether your property is a transient or a city property where you would have a reasonable occupancy throughout the year. So from what I've seen in my career running city hotels and resorts, is that resorts would have a high level of seasonality. In Asia, you would base it on the rainy season and the dry season. In New Zealand, Australia, some parts of Europe, some parts of the US, you would base it on whether you're a ski resort or a summer resort. Mm-hmm. So here it matters. In my opinion, if your year-to-date occupancy runs below 40-45% without having the right room rate, which you're going to talk next, you're in a bit of trouble, because you are. What I have seen in properties is that if you're around the 40-45%, you're kind of sitting on the fence. It's very fragile.
Can I interrupt a minute? So a lot of resorts close for the off season. They're open for the ski season or the summer season or the festive season, whichever it may be. Then they just close it down.
Yep.
Because they can't afford to maintain the property, which is what you're talking about.
Yes.
With a 5% or 10% occupancy rate. Just doesn't work.
That doesn't
so
work.
They just close it down. And I wonder whether those places can make a profit, even though they're still paying for half of the year when the property's closed. They're still paying bills, they're still paying rates and insurance and maintenance and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, good example. My brother-in-law worked in an island in Sicily. He was a chef, and he was saying it only opens 5 months of the year, right, and it's shut for the rest of it. So yes, the 5 months does make money, but then the next pillar, which is what we're going to talk next, the average room rate really matters.
Yeah.
So if you're opening 5 months a year, a resort 5 months a year, you need to have a good number of rooms and a very, very good average room rate.
And a very good occupancy.
And a fantastic occupancy, because the council is not going to lower your rates just because you're going to shut down.
Or the insurance company.
Exactly. They might charge you more for the time you're closed because of security and things like that.
Yeah.
So that the occupancy matters. So if you're buying a seasonal resort, you need to ensure that your year-to-date occupancy, not the month occupancy, but if you look at 365 days, it sits at a good percentage, around probably, I would say 60 is just about break even. You're really not gonna make a lot of money, even though you have a high average room rate. You're really not gonna make a lot of money at 60. So just to add to that, Owen, I was consulting to a client who's based in Florida, and he was gonna buy a property in Venezuela. And this destination is seasonal, highly seasonal. They have good occupancy. They don't shut it down, but they have good occupancy 6 months of the year, and average or poor occupancy 6 months of the year. And his numbers stacked up to the average occupancy when we looked at over 5 years. It was sitting around 48-52%. So in my opinion, I told him, hey, this could be the wrong investment. Because at 50% occupancy, can you really make money? I mean, why are you buying the property? Is it for a lifestyle reason, or are you trying to make profits out of it? I mean, if it's for a lifestyle reason, if family's going to have some holidays there, that's all right. You can just pay your bills there. But if you're really trying to make money, that's the wrong number. So occupancy is a very important pillar. And now, for example, let's look at the Gold Coast in Australia. The average city occupancy sits around 93%.
Yes, that's amazing, isn't it?
That's amazing, right? So the chances of you making money are much higher. So a good average for a property based on where you are would be, sitting around the 70s, 80%. And in my experience, if you're sitting around the 60% occupancies year to date, you're still not making that amount of money.
Nevertheless,